Eternum is a pretty big world, which might feel quite daunting to a new player, but in this video I'm going to give you the tools you need to be a top level gatherer as you uncover the new world. I'm going to separate this video into sections so that if you're a player that just wants to focus on one thing, you can skip right to what's relevant to you. However, before you go, I want to emphasize one major thing. If you want to get big into any of the crafting disciplines in New World and turn these gathering resources into items, you'll most likely have to rely on more than one gathering discipline. Allow me to explain. Let's say I want to go into weaponsmithing. In order to make these weapons, I don't just need bars made from ore. I'm also going to need wood and hide, which you get from lumbering and skinning. You, of course, can work with your friends or company to all specialize in different things to solve that problem in that way. But if you want to be self-sustaining, I strongly recommend poking through higher level versions of crafting and disciplines to find out what you need in order to specialize and succeed in what is attractive to you. Leads me to my next point, efficiency. The word that will give most Germans a semi. It's one of the most important things to keep in mind when trying to optimally spend your time in any MMO. But for our purposes, efficiency is where you gather and going into it with a plan. For example, if you want to level harvesting and skinning, provide yourself with the resources to do light armor or bag crafting, you are optimally going to want to find a place to gather where both of these things are present. For newer players, this may be quite daunting, as you were just starting to discover everything that is on the map. But I can give you a tool that will make this so much easier and give you advantage over all those other new life skillers. This is the New World Interactive Map. Link will be in the description. This thing is so incredibly useful. Allow me to explain how it works. Let's say I want to find where all the iron is on the map so I can go get myself some iron. All you gotta do, go to ores, find where it says iron vein, check it, and boom, this is every iron vein on the map that we know about up to this point. It's pretty useful. Let's say I am in Everfall, which is, I'm being dumb, which is right here, and I want to go find some iron. This tells me where I can go to find that iron, which in this case would be over here. Lots and lots of iron in the Highlands. The game itself does have something like this, where you can go see where the different regions are. Notice how there's different texturing on different parts of the map, like this is like woodlands and this is like plains. But this is so much more exact in saying where stuff is. Let's say I don't want iron. Let's say I want to go find myself some hemp. Check hemp. Now we get to see where all of the hemp spawns. Notice how it's very concentrated in Windsward. We'll talk about that later. But you can use this for anything you want. Let's say we want to find a place that has hemp and iron. Kind of doesn't quite add up generally because they spawn in very different zones, usually. But if we wanted to get some hemp and iron, this area could be not too bad. Clear out the hemp down here, go up, get some iron. A fly here, let's say we're up here. Get all the hemp in this area, go up and get iron from the Highlands. Very useful. My plans for launch are to get my discipline levels to the point where I can harvest the next tier materials when I start leaving the starting zones. This way I can keep leveling and questing, while always being able to collect resources as I see them while I'm roaming around. Now let's get into the different gathering disciplines. Early game mining can be leveled one of two ways, with each having their own pros and cons. First way is to live the boulder lifestyle.
The boulder
Lifestyle being that you will go and spam boulders, and that will be your primary source of XP to level mining. The advantages to
the boulder
method is that you'll have little downtime, and you can use all that stone to power level your stone cutting, which will give you access to higher tier gems and dungeon keys. The downside of this method is that you'll be getting a lot less XP per harvest, which can make this method feel quite grindy. The alternative is to rely on iron and silver mining. My favorite route for this, which is between Everfall and Monarch's Bluffs, will be playing on screen as I continue what I'm talking about. This method in many cases gives double XP per harvest compared to the stone, and both of these resources are so useful for so many things that you'll always get a return on your time spent, whether it be from using it to craft or level your refining skills, or just selling it on the market for some extra gold. However, iron and silver is useful to everyone, so you'll have a ton of competition trying to get their hands on these things at launch. This method also has a con of having a lot of downtime, moving from node to node, and waiting for respawns. Personally, I would aim for at least level 50 mining before leaving the starting areas, if it's something that you want to focus on, because by this point you've unlocked gold, and you're able to get motes from the special mining stones, which synergizes well if you want to do gem cutting. The big upgrade for weapons and armor, however, is through star metal, which requires mining 100. Whether you want to go right out of the gate and grind straight to 100 is entirely up to you, but I'd recommend it if you want to get a lot of value out of your mining in the early game. Leveling for harvesting in the early game is a lot more straightforward. The best source for early harvesting XP is through herb plants and hemp. The route you see on screen now is in Western Windsward. It's what I plan to use on launch if I can help it. Once you're harvesting level 30, which is pretty easy to attain, you can start diversifying into special plants, which will provide you with motes and ingredients for higher tier potions. Hemp is pretty much your only real option for consistent harvesting XP in the early game, but it occurs in big clusters, which is convenient, and you can use all those fibers to level your refining skill in preparation for higher tier resources. The big bracket you harvesters want to hit is harvesting 100. It unlocks silkweed, which is how you get tier 4 cloth. Scanning is a lot less about where you go and more about what you want to hunt. There are two types of beasts in New World: predators and prey. Predators will aggro and fight back, while prey will actively try to run from you and social distance. Prey is a lot easier to hunt if you got a ranged weapon, who would have thought, but that one can be quite frustrating to chase it down with just melee weapons at your disposal, while predators will always aggro, which means they'll always come to you. Skinning is also quite unique in that there are a lot more stages to what you can and can't skin, but the big number you need to know is that when you go to the second tier areas like Brightwood and Cutlass Keys, you'll run into level 26 beasts, which require skinning level 55. Also, bonus tip, bears do not fuck around. Respect them, or Yogi will come stretch out your picnic basket. Now, to level lumbering, you want to chop trees. Logging is pretty basic stuff. You chop young trees, they spawn in forests. At level 50, you can chop mature trees. The big difference with lumbering is that you can find these same types of trees pretty much anywhere you go, which makes them a lot less important to level it in the starting zones. The big bracket you want to hit is lumbering 100, which will unlock weirdwood trees. Are we noticing a pattern yet? Now I want to talk about stockpiles, chests, crates. They go by many names. So you may be asking, why are we talking about these crates in the gathering video? Well, crates are how you get your hands on refining materials like crossweave and sandpaper, or cooking mats that you otherwise wouldn't be able to find, which lets you turn all those gathered materials into finalized products to use, sell, and give to your friends. Supply crates will give gear and refining mats, alchemy crates will give stuff like potions, and provisions crates will give stuff like bait and cooking mats. All incredibly useful. Even if you don't plan to use them yourself, I recommend trying to grab these whenever you see them, because if you don't want to use them, you can just sell them for tons of gold, because a lot of these things will be quite rare. New World, in true MMO fashion, has plenty of food buffs and potions to augment your stats. These augmentations, of course, extend to life skilling. For our purposes, there's two main things you need to know about for your early game going into Gathering. First being food buffs. There are food buffs you can craft for every section of life skilling. Click on one so I can show you an example. Cooked corn gives you stats for harvesting, increases your luck, which gives you an extra chance to get some special procs, which will give you some more oomph out of your gathering time. As you can see, it's quite cheap, just corn, butter, and salt. This is not too hard to find in the early game. You can get butter from milk, that kind of thing. Really, really worth it. And you get to level your cooking while you're at it, which is a win-win. Second thing you need to know about is the weak proficiency booster. This just flat gives you 5% more mats whenever you gather, which is really, really, really good. And these get better. There are upgraded versions of this as engineering and the workstation gets upgraded. I strongly recommend trying to get these. They don't even cost that much. They just cost motes. Remember how we talked about motes before, how you can get them from mining and harvesting? These are so good. If you're going to do one or the other, this is the one you want to do. The final thing I want to talk to you about, and probably the most important thing, is craft your own iron tools as soon as possible. They're pretty inexpensive to make them yourself, and you'll get a huge spike in your gathering efficiency. People will be selling these in the market for several hundred gold, and by crafting them yourself, you'll still be able to reap all those benefits while saving a ton of money. Another huge bonus to crafting your own tools is getting to choose what perks you get, and I recommend either going for the increased gathering XP so you can move on faster, or going for Azoth Extraction, which is my personal favorite. all of this extra Azoth will allow you to be able to craft better weapons and fast travel more, which in the early game will be especially valuable. I hope this video helps set you up for success as a beginning gatherer on launch. If you have any questions or feedback, feel free to let me know in the comments. The life scaling in New World is probably one of my favorite elements in the game, and I really hope you come to enjoy it as much as I do. Sorry this video came out a little bit scuffed. I've not been feeling too well lately, but if you enjoyed the video, consider hitting the like button, it really helps out. And I'll be streaming New World on Twitch when the game comes out. Feel free to come say hi at twitch.tv/albatrossop. See you next time.